So what changed then in talks over this weekend in order to get a deal?
Basically, what we have been told by this government is that they are not willing to budge any further. We are bringing it to our members to have the vote. It is time for this to be a worker-centered fight. It's always been worker-centered. It's always been worker-led. Perhaps when the members speak, this government will listen.
Is it an acknowledgement then that the government moved enough on salaries that you feel that this is enough to take to your members?
This is an acknowledgement that we have reached at the bargaining table what we are able to do. It's now time for the workers to have their voice heard. Allison?
Hi, Laura. So to confirm, the tentative deal today, it's me, yep, is no different than what was offered last week. No difference whatsoever.
Yeah. Contrary to what the minister has been talking about, he didn't offer anything and there isn't anything. And so at this point, we are bringing it back to the members. The government's folks that are here, the two lawyers that are here, have made it clear that there was no other option and that the Treasury Board wasn't even interested in listening to any other options. So at this point, we are taking it to the members to make a decision.
And you said that you heard from your members. Did you have people reach out after your press conference last week to sort of come forward and say, hey, that actually sounds pretty good on wages. We want to vote for that. You don't need to push any further on this staffing thing. Just let us vote on this salary increase.
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about how tentative agreements come. We had a lot of people who spoke out and said, this isn't enough, or I need the services. We heard from many parents that said, thank you for fighting for these services. Unfortunately, this government isn't willing to give for services. Unfortunately, this government isn't going to be protecting kids. We are going to take this back to the workers. The workers will make the final decision. If it's ratified, it will move forward as a collective agreement. If it's turned down, we'll be back to the table. Ahmed?
Hey, Laura, can you speak a bit more about wages? Because I know that, the union had been pushing for higher wages for the lowest paid education workers that it represents. Can you speak a bit more about, what the union has agreed with the government on when it comes to wages?
So the union has agreed to a $1 flat rate. And when I say agreed, we have accepted that as part of the tentative agreement, and the members will choose whether it's agreed to or not. This is more than we've maybe seen in public sectors, but I think it also falls very short of what workers need in this current climate. And it still falls very short of what the minister himself received. But once again, we are bringing back what we feel is available at the table today. The members will have the say. The members will tell us what they need to do. If the members do not accept it, we will be back.
All right. When you filed for the 5-day notice, you said that the government's refusal to invest in services was the reason you were making this escalation. After the union had ended the first job action, you said in a letter to members that the union faced the possibility of losing public support if we were seen to be responsible for keeping kids out of school. My question is, was the union worried about optics this time going into another strike, a second strike? Is that why you accepted this agreement?
Yeah, I think we need to be clear. We haven't had a second strike. As a matter of fact, we've never had a first strike. We went on a political protest because this government ripped apart the rights of workers. So there hasn't been a first strike or a second strike. This would have been our first strike. The previous political protest was in response to the draconian legislation that this government put forth in an attempt to crush workers. I think, one of the things that we're always trying to monitor is what is the best route as we move forward. And it became very clear to us that the best route for us was to move forward in a way that gave workers the democratic right to use their voice. That's something that I wish was done more in many other spaces, but this has always been a worker-led fight, and the workers will let us know what they need.
So would you say that the union has conceded on services when it comes to services and investments?
No, and I want to be clear, the union is the workers. There isn't two different places. Just like the union can't close schools, that happens by school boards. The workers are going to have the ability to have a voice in what they want to do, and that is the way it should be. And we look forward to them having that opportunity.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Carolyn?
Hi, Laura. So just listening to your tone here, it seems like you do not like this deal. Am I wrong?
Well, listen, as a mom, I don't like this deal. As a worker, I don't like this deal. As the president of the OSBCU, I understand why this is the deal that's on the table. I think it falls short. I think it's terrible that we live in a world that doesn't see the need to provide services to kids that they need. But we will always put workers first. We will always put our students first. And that's why there will not be a strike tomorrow. That's why we're taking it to the workers. And that's why we hope to have it completed, the ratification vote completed by Sunday, a week today.
But what do you expect members to do? Aren't you and the bargaining team supposed to bring forward the best possible deal, or the deal that you think is best to workers? I mean,
I think the key word in there, Carolyn, is possible. And when you're being told by the government that there is no possible way that they're going to improve, then you have to do the right thing as a leader, which often is very uncomfortable, and you need to bring it forth to the workers to use their voice. Harrison? Harrison? Oh, Wyatt, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to, I know you had mentioned that the voting for the tentative agreement amongst CUPE's members will begin on Thursday. You also said that if that vote is turned down, that you will be back at the table. Just hypothetically speaking, I mean, it's basically 6 o'clock on a Sunday evening. If, say, this strike hadn't have been adverted, then parents would have been scrambling last minute to try to find care for their children. I guess just how can you ensure that there is, a certain level of certainty in future rounds of negotiations for parents? And I guess how can you ensure that you're being transparent with parents?
I think right now there is no certainty for any of our schools because this government fails to put the services and funding in place to keep them. Right now we're seeing record high pediatric illnesses because our schools don't have enough custodians to keep them clean. All I can say is that the workers are going to use their voice. We have been extremely transparent. Parents have been able to follow along with us. As a matter of fact, parents created our proposals with us. We will continue to keep them apprised of every step of the way. And it doesn't mean that if this is turned down next Sunday, that we're out on the street the next day. We would have to serve another 5-day notice before we would even be able to entertain another strike.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Morgan?
Hi, yes. I wanted to know kind of along those lines, like if you get to next Sunday and there's a ratification vote and it's voted down, what would the procedure, what would the process be like there? What would the timeline look like? Thanks.
Yeah, so I think we saw this with our friends at ATU, right? Their membership voted down the collective agreement and then they went back to the table. I am not going to prejudice ongoing negotiations or the ongoing vote with trying to assume I know what's going to happen, right? What would happen is if it is turned down, we would be sending, a message over saying, unfortunately, we were unable to get this deal ratified. We need to get back to the table. Lisa?
Hi, Laura. Just in speaking with a lot of parents today, it really sounds like they're fed up, with the uncertainty with their kids. Is there a strike? Is there no strike? Do we have to do online learning? Did it have to get to this point for them?
No, I don't think that there's a need for it ever to get to this point. But what it requires is having a government that's willing to come to the table and recognize the value and recognize what's actually needed on the front line. I hope there are, other groups that are going to be coming after us. I hope that this government recognizes that, we need to do better. The people of Ontario have the majority in this province. They want investments in our education. They do not want any more cuts. And I hope that, that we can move forward and these can come into place. And let's be clear, investments in education don't always have to happen at the negotiations table. There is an opportunity for this government to recognize the needs that parents have in having safe, secure, and accessible schools. And that should be happening. There should never be a parent who's asked to keep their child home because there's not enough EAs. There should never be a situation where schools are not maintained and cleaned daily. And if it doesn't happen at this bargaining table, then I hope that this government can recognize the need and do the right thing outside of negotiations as well. Ahmed and then Morgan.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, it's like 6 p.m. on a Sunday night. What's your message to, parents and families who have been waiting? Like tomorrow there will be a school day for students in the province. What's your message amid, the unpredictability that this process has come with?
I think my message is that, we are going to do everything we can do to keep your kids in school. Not just around labor negotiations, but to keep your kids in school every single day of the school year. And that's really important to us right now because, right now there is so much instability, so much that's not normal, not because of labor negotiations, but because the current underfunding and current devaluing of education workers and of public education in general. And we're going to keep fighting. Long after this is over, we are going to keep fighting. We were there fighting before, and we're going to be beside them fighting as we move forward. All right, everyone, I do have to get back to the team. I thank you for joining us, and we'll be talking soon.